Okay, so we're opening the April 13th Town of Philipstown Conservation Board meeting. And I'm Andy Galler, and I'm acting as chairperson in Mark Alizo's absence. And I believe the first item on our modified agenda now, because would be Needleman. Are they here? Or does Max have any more information after we did the site visit?
Yeah, I think I just need to give you guys an update on that project. After we visited this site, or the CB members that could attend that visit, the applicant has begun to prepare materials for me to begin to write and draft a permit for the project to kind of rectify the violation and then also accomplish what they needed to do on the site. They've moved the pool filter equipment out of the 100-foot setback and are going to be running the utility lines to that pool filter system through just previously disturbed areas that are now raised garden beds. Mm-hmm. They've removed a lot of the fill that was placed in the wetland buffer and wetland itself, and have reestablished the silt fence on the property. I went out and delineated the wetland for them as well. And essentially at this point, I told them that they've now followed what we instructed them to do at that site visit and at the previous meeting, conservation board meeting. So I was hoping, I guess, at this point for you guys to vote on approving a permit or conditionally approving a permit based on me sending you the final compilation of their plans. They've sent me, and this was just received today, so it's a little bit late notice, but they have followed everything we've asked them for. So we have a planting plan that's extensive with native plants that would be perfect for those areas that were disturbed, and some moved all the filter equipment out of the wetland buffer. They're not using a chlorine system. They're using other means to purify the water, and are removing fill. So I feel comfortable. I would feel comfortable issuing a permit based on what they've submitted so far. I believe Cheryl has received some preliminary drawings regarding what I just mentioned that to incorporate into the permit proposal. So either we can have them submit all the drawings for you all to review again, or you can trust and I'll update you on the process, and we can approve a permit at this point to kind of rectify the violation and move forward, allow them to move forward with planting and restoring the area, as well as installing the pool equipment outside of our regulated jurisdiction.
Yeah, Max, it's Bob. Are they still gonna do a concrete pad, or is that's still part of it, or that's just now out of the buffer?
No, they've moved it completely out. I delineated the wetland, and during that site visit, Jan, Andy, and Mark and I found an alternate location that would be suitable outside of our regulated jurisdiction that the homeowner was agreeable upon putting that equipment. So that's what they've chosen. So that no longer exists.
Okay. And what are they planning to do with all the fill that was dumped back there?
That's removed. I don't know what the ultimate fate of it will be, but it's not going to be on the property. So it's being removed, and then the places where the fill is being removed will be replanted with a host of native vegetation. And I had a cursory glance at the planting lists, and it all looked really good. But I know that they dropped off that material to Cheryl today. So obviously it was past the due date for the deadline for this meeting.
So how does everybody feel about Max's recommendation? And I'll underline that because the only one that was at the site visit that's here tonight is me.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the property. And I think that it sounds like this is actually a better outcome than we had originally expected. But I'd like to hear what the other members say. And I'd like to hear your opinion, Andy, since you are the only one who went on the site visit.
Oh, I trust Max. I guess I myself would sort of like to see the plans before I vote on it. But at the same time,
I mean, there's no pressure on my part to push this forward any faster than you're comfortable with, for sure.
but at the same time, because spring is unpredictable, are we, and I'm not really sure here, are we going to have them lose a window of opportunity for planting or not? You have any idea, Max?
It's a hard situation because I think that in reality, they are willing to put the resources towards restoring no matter what. So that's the sense I've gotten. So whether or not we have that formalized plan for everyone to review, I think the outcome, in my opinion, will be that area will be restored to and at least replanted. I mean, I would allow them to replant without a permit, before they started doing all the other activities regarding the pool, even without, I think, board approval. I think that would make sense in this case because we're trying to rectify a violation of filling. And then also making an accommodation for them to continue on with their project proposal. So if you were to remove the pool situation from this whole, I guess the board's consideration, planting native plants to restore a small area, I think would be, I would write that permit without, going through this process. So that's kind of where I'm at in my thinking on this, is that they're going to be adding a lot of value to the site, even though they did do, temporary damage potentially. And I think that they're trying to do what they can to rectify that situation and move forward with what they want to accomplish. So that being said, though, like, again, if we want to put the brakes on and we say, yeah, let's review the planting plan and have them bump out an extra month, that's fine with me too. That would be following the process that's been established, making them come to next month's meeting.
So can I ask Rob and MJ and Crystal their thoughts?
I mean, I like the proposal to move everything out of the buffer and get rid of the concrete pad that was proposed. So from at least the plan that Max has outlined, I think that's a good compromise. Again, I completely trust Max's opinion, so I'm okay if Max says to go ahead with it without seeing the plans. I'm perfectly fine with seeing the plans as well and the planting plans, but again, we do have a short window, and we often wind up having people come in and they have to put it in late summer, and then they don't grow, and then so it would be better to try and get it in the ground probably than wait for the plans.
Yeah, I agree with what you said, Bob. Especially like trying to order plans and get it in. I as a gardener, I kind of understand that with the window. And I trust that that Max will come up with like something that's good. So.
A lot of testimonials, Max.
So Max, are you going to give them guidance on the planting?
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at what they've provided in terms of sketches, and it looks great. I mean, Grace Kennedy is doing the restoration planting plan, so
okay. Yeah, you told me.
we've been, yeah. So there's nothing that, yeah, like there's nothing there that I'm like, oh, that's a complete red flag. So, and they paid for me to come out and delineate, and they're fully on board. So we've gone through our hiccups in this process, and I think there were a lot of people involved from the applicant's perspective, and I had to kind of put the screws on the project a little bit, and I think now we're kind of in lockstep. So I just wanted to update the board, I guess. And again, if you want to hold off for a month, I think we can do that, and that would follow our administrative process, or I can forward you everything we have, and Cheryl can forward everything we have at this point that I would have accepted. But yeah, the planting lists and all that look good to me, and that's my biggest concern. So
Max, can we have them proceed with the planting as you suggested under your guidance, and then we can see the rest of the plans and vote next month on the rest of the project, just to put a bow on this?
Yeah, that's fine with me. I can communicate that to them.
So from a procedural standpoint, I don't think we necessarily need to then vote on this. That we're going
No,
right? We're going
I think
to allow
honestly,
Max to oversee the planting plan, and then next month we will look at the entire plan and vote on a permit. Does that make sense to everybody?
And honestly, Andy, I think at that point, the only thing that the board would be voting on would be running the utility lines to the pool filtration system through a previously disturbed area. And you remember the garden beds there, that middle walkway.
Right. That would
that
are
fall
against the barn or whatever it is.
Exactly. So that would technically fall within the 100-foot setback, and then ultimately, make its way outside of the buffer to the filtration system. So really that would be your deciding factor at that point. If the planting can be omitted from the permitting process. So that's kind of why it's a little bit, do we wait or do we not wait?
Well, I'm gathering that we're all agreeing that the planting we should not hold that up.
Right.
So the only question I have is, there's two ways to go about this. One is we allow Max to oversee, which he would do anyway, the planting process, and then we vote on the final permit next meeting. Or we could also vote, but I'm not sure everybody's familiar with it enough, because the second part of the prong of the permit is essentially where they're putting the utility lines, which is there is existing raised beds that, yes, they're within the wetland buffer. They're probably 20 years old, and that's where the line would go. So does anybody have a desire or think that we should vote on this tonight, or just allow Max to oversee the planting, and then we can just, when everybody's a little bit more familiar with it and has seen the new plans, vote on the permit for the final work?
I agree with that course.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's the urgent thing, is the planting. So if we can decouple them, that was great.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want photographs? What would be appropriate, I guess, for you guys to get more familiar? And if we can't coordinate an additional, does that work?
Be great. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Okay.
A good visual.
Okay. So Max, you'll work with them on the planting plan, and then they'll bring in their final plans before the next meeting so that we can vote on the final permit.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Going down the agenda, the Whites have decided they're not coming in tonight. Mackin, we discussed, so I assume he is not here tonight.
He is here, actually. Ed Mackin. I'm going to move him over.
Okay.
Just needs to unmute.
Okay, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi,
Good evening, Mr. Mackin. How are you?
thank you. Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. You want to briefly just tell, I mean, we've looked at your plans. You want to briefly tell us about your project?
Sure. Basically, what I'm requesting is a permit so that I can reinstall gravel on my driveway, which has been worn away through the last 10, 12 years from snow plowing and trucks coming in for, especially during COVID, a lot of deliveries, mostly snow plowing. So just a base coat to bring it up to what it was. That's all. No expansion, no decretion, same size, raise it about 2 inches, and that's it.
And Max, you feel this comes under maintenance?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that. We discussed this before, but I think that we just wanted to make sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, because we've had, obviously we've had some contention with the neighboring property, Ed, in the past.
That's why I'm doing it. I want everything on the up and up, because he will come over.
Yeah. So what we had discussed, and I don't want to step on your toes, Andy, if you want to jump in here, let me know.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I think really what we're looking for is just to make sure that when you do the repair, quote unquote repair, that we have silt fencing in place initially when along that initial curve in the driveway towards East Mountain Road. And that's been, near the nearest area to your neighbor's property, essentially. Does that sound familiar to you?
So as you pull in the driveway, it bends to the right. So you're talking about outside of the turn on the neighbor we've had issues with, that side there?
Yeah, potentially either side, just because the water course kind of flows underneath the driveway. At least protecting the culvert that runs under the road there while you're grading, and then once the road base is established and compressed, I think then we can, you can remove that. But during, if you're putting, I think Andy brought up, it's a lot of material you're putting down. So while that's being compressed and solidified into that driveway base, I think we just want to make sure it's not running off into the regulated area.
Okay. Well, the only thing is, as you know, is that brings up another issue, is there is now an obstacle in my way, which is a pile of debris. Logs, trunks, you name it. And it's basically right on the edge of the driveway. So it's going to be very difficult to get any kind of silt fence in between that. So I would probably make to have that moved first.
Yeah, I will. We're still working with George to rectify that situation, and he's agreed to move that material, or at least figure out some sort of bring a plan to us to rectify that. So what I would say is that's happening, and if there's a way we can kind of make you satisfied and George satisfied at the same time, like, we should move forward in that manner, and then know that we're also working to kind of make sure that no one's getting stepped on here. So
okay, because the way it stands with the driveway, for those that remember, it is a right of way. So from the edge of where would be the current driveway, the right of way gives me 6 feet. And no more, because it is on his property on that corner, but I purchased the right of way. So it's just going to be a little tricky as to where to put that silt fence on that outside bend along that pile and stuff like that. Because if I do encroach over the 6 foot, I'm off my right of way onto his property.
Why don't you establish the erosion control on the areas that are not going to be contentious, and then I will, and if you can coordinate with me the days when you're going to be our prospective days to do the work, and if you can give me enough lead time, I'll contact your neighbor and we'll try to figure this out in a manner that makes sense for both of you.
Okay.
So that you can get what you can get done.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like that's only fair. So we'll, you know, I'll work with George. If you can just keep me in the loop, just, you know, make sure it's not like a day in advance. Cause I don't know
No.
how
Yeah.
easy, you know what I mean?
Right.
So if I can try to get a hold of him and just make sure we understand what's going on, he understands what's going on, and we'll try to get through it together.
And
Sure.
I think the important thing is to protect, you know, the water course. So, you know, I mean, if you have to work it out, and I mean, I'm sure he would be amenable to that as well. He should want to protect the water course as well. So, you know, if the fence is a couple of inches over on the property line, it really shouldn't be a big deal.
The water course is an issue where it goes under the culvert, under the driveway. That's all mine, both sides. So that's not an issue. It's where we get around the bend past that, starting up towards the houses, where it becomes right of way, and then it comes back onto my property. So I'll work with Max on it. I guess the question is, as far as obviously I have to purchase the material, what kind of a length are we looking at on each side?
In terms of silt fence.
Yes.
Why don't you have stuff that hasn't been used, right, for the other project, or it's left over? Why don't you have that installed, and we'll see where that ends up, and then we can go from there, because I think it's a significant amount. The last time I was there was when I went over to George's property.
Right.
And I think you have a good amount of silt fencing there, and you probably could get a lot done with that.
Okay. But as a rough
Yeah.
estimate from the culvert itself, are we talking 50 feet on each side, 75 on each side?
I think maybe we would need, we should talk, we should just meet on site, and we can measure it out. Cause
That would be great.
Yeah, I think you also haven't, have you paid the permit fees?
Yes.
Okay. So then we should also, when we meet, maybe we can discuss that as well, and we can figure out how this is going to be like feed out completely. Cause
That
you
would be
may
great.
you may have overpaid if this is going to be considered a repair. So I want to just make sure that we're all above board on that.
Okay, sure.
So.
All right. Well, you can, you know, at your convenience, you can contact me, and we'll set up a time when you want to come up. I'll make sure I'm around, and that we'll move forward. Not a problem.
Okay. Yeah. I'll, after this meeting, I will email you, and
Okay.
we can make a time.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments? Okay,
Sounds like a plan.
thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Good
All
evening.
right. I'll talk to you soon, Ed.
Thank you. Thanks, Max.
Yep. Bye.
Okay, so next on our agenda is somebody is either Carl Nelson or a representative for him here, 946 Route 9D.
Adam Thyberg is here from Insight Engineering.
Okay.
Sorry, Cheryl, is it possible for me to share my screen?
Yes, just one sec.
Good evening, Adam, and welcome.
Is it letting you share, Adam?
Oh, looks like I have access now.
Oh, great.
Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Adam Thyberg from Insight Engineering Surveying Landscape Architecture, here representing Carl and Carol Nelson of 946 Route 9D Garrison. We're seeking approval to build an approximately 2,600 square foot detached garage. This action will also go before the planning board for a minor site plan, but the existence on the site of a man-made pond it seemed that it was best to engage the Conservation Board first. So this is our site plan. You can see Route 9D out here. You can see the existing home. And then along the northern property line runs the Arden Brook. And then feeding that, if I zoom in here, or I'm being fed by that, I should say, is a man-made pond, rock lined here, as you can see. It's fed from the brook through an 18-inch concrete pipe, and it is fed on the downstream, or it feeds back to the Arden Brook on the downstream side there. Per town guidelines, we wanted to start by looking at opportunities, other opportunities for locations on the site. So with our submission, we provided a constraints map, which I'll switch over to. Are you seeing that? Okay. So, we did take a look at other opportunities. You can see some of the constraints that we have here in this hatch. Obviously, we have, needless to say, we have the existing house and driveway themselves. We have property line setbacks. We have the 100-foot offset to the Arden Brook itself. We have a septic system and expansion area, some rock outcropping and elevation change, and some existing pretty substantial trees. So the area in question is off of the driveway here, which would be the structure itself would sit completely outside of the 100-foot buffer to the Arden Brook itself, but would sit within a potential buffer of the open pond. So going back to our site plan, the project also includes an infiltration system, which would capture all of the runoff that would hit the roof, would be infiltrated underground. And in addition to that, we're also showing a mitigation planting, which would run along the Arden Brook, more or less between where the inflow pipe comes into the pond and then exits, and all along the brook, kind of in that area. Generally, the garage is the dimensions that it is. It kind of works with the grade, so there's not a lot of additional grading to make this work. We're kind of flattening out a bit at the bottom for a lower door. We're doing a little work on the driveway, but generally this is going to run with more or less the existing grades. And so we obviously, being within the 24 feet of the pond, we wanted to come and see the Conservation Board first.
Hey, could I get some comments from the board, please?
Well, actually, Andy, I have a question. Do we treat man-made ponds differently than other wetland buffers? Actually,
Usually not.
And just to add on to that, especially in this case where you have an inflow coming off of a naturally occurring stream to fill the pond and an outflow that dumps back into that naturally occurring stream, that would be, of our utmost, we'd pay our utmost attention to that as well.
What's the purpose of the garage? I mean, obviously it's residential area, but what was the expected usage?
It's for vehicle storage. The owner is a collector, and is looking for this to be a storage space, and just a place to hang out.
So there's no intention to work on cars in this garage at all?
No, this is not for mechanical use. This is strictly for storage
And show.
and show.
It is a big garage.
To the point of
Quite a big garage,
That's what I was wondering.
size of my house.
To the point of the fact that this is a man-made stone lined pond. Obviously, it is fed by the Arden Brook, and we're not we're really not arguing that there is or should be a buffer related to the pond itself. That being said, as just a practical matter, if actually I could switch over, I could show you some photos of the pond if that would be helpful.
Sure. I think that would be a good idea.
Are you seeing the photos now?
No.
No.
Okay, I gotta just change the share 1 second. So as a practical matter, you know, we would fully avail ourselves, obviously, of silt fence and all, you know, all of the standard erosion control practices during construction. Any of the runoff from the building itself would be infiltrated to below ground. And obviously, as you can see here, this is, you know, we don't have a major concerns with regard to erosion here. We've got a pretty heavily stone masonry lined pond here.
That pipe that's in that photo there, is that one of the inlets or the outlets, or what is that?
This is where the water comes in from the brook,
Okay.
probably out over here somewhere. And then on the other end, you see there's the same type of pipe for the outflow.
Okay. Mhm.
So again, recognizing that, you know, we have a buffer for this pond, but as a practical matter, and as far as the reasonable request for a permit to work within that buffer, you know, we would like to have it taken into account that this is a man-made pond and it's pretty well armored around the edges.
What kind of creatures are in there, like fish and things like that? Do they stock it? Is it natural things in there?
They don't stock it, to my knowledge. I could verify that with the owner, but I'm quite sure that they don't stock it. So it would be anything that might naturally occur and make its way through the pipes, but nothing extraordinary.
What about alternative locations? You went back to the plans. If we're done with the photo, there.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's go back to the, if you could, because you did such a nice job with it, the constraint map.
Sure. So again, you know, we have our constraints, certainly at the perimeters, you know, obviously with our setbacks. Again, you know, the buffer of the Arden Brook itself, our septic area, our area of quite mature trees with really no access to get in the backyard. And even back there, we have exposed bedrock and some grade change. So the constraints kind of tell the story of the availability of space to do this.
Normally, we do not allow building structures within a wetland buffer, particularly if they're not necessary, if you will, if they're not essential structures. So what I'm seeing is, and this is a very difficult trade-off, you have right now, unless Max inspects the pond and tells us differently, and I don't think we're going to find that it's an inconsequential water body, that you basically want to build a building, and quite a large one, if you will, that's, you know, roughly, what is it, 20 or 30 feet from the pond?
24,
excuse me? I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
24 feet.
24 feet. Versus, I don't know what the trees look like on what would be the southern end of the property. But that,
we have a photo of some of them, but
yeah, so, you know, I have a problem with this. I think, I know myself, I would need to see the site, but I think the owner is asking a lot of us. So what are the species? I did see the diameter at breast height.
Mhm.
While I'm not an expert arborist, I do have a good background in forestry. Beechers are wonderful, but they're not on the whole going to be with us that much longer. There are all types of disease complexes that are taking down our beaches slowly but surely. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about this. You know, I think I think you're asking a lot from us. You're asking for a big, big exception.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's justified.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I was leaning towards, this area here where the you know, the by that circle, whatever that circle is in the middle of the driveway there, where that big 30-foot beach is, you know, like this area here. I know you got the setback from the neighbor's property, but like there seems to be like maybe a compromise in this area here. Obviously, it's in front of the house, you know, it's not as attractive as over there right in front of the ponds, but it is a big ask, you know, to put it in the buffer like that. And then again, there's a lot of activity near the pond and all. So I was thinking like where that 30-foot beech tree is there along the side of where it says along the property of Tammy and Sarah, or Tommy and Sarah, sorry.
You're talking about this one. I can
Yeah,
bring,
yeah.
I can bring up a photo of that one, if you don't mind. I believe that's the one. Obviously not capturing the whole thing. This was from a few weeks ago when everything was still looking pretty stark and the buds weren't on the trees yet, but fairly substantial. And, you know, I can tell you that, you know, just from the applicant's perspective, I think putting something over there for a variety of reasons, not least of which the size and value of these mature trees would probably be a non-starter. And obviously that's not the board's issue to weigh. But I think that these trees provide significant value, and weighed against putting in a structure, an impervious structure, but one that is to be where we're going to be utilizing infiltration practices, where you're not seeing additional runoff, you're not really having any impact on the pond. And this is not a wild pond. This is a man-made pond with solid edges. We're not infringing on any kind of habitat. You saw the pictures. It's essentially just lawn up against what is a retaining wall set on the edge of the water. I think there's an argument to be made that there would be very little to no impact on this pond, given the fact that we're not going to see increased runoff and we're not going to be impacting any type of real habitat as related to that pond. And then, weighing that against taking out, some, as we've been saying, some really quite substantial trees. I think there's an argument to be made
Adam, I'm going to push back a little bit on the notion that there's no habitat that might be impacted. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's an inflow and an outflow from a active and, stream, right? Arden Brook. So those two water bodies have a symbiotic relationship, if you will, so we have no idea what's calling that pond home now. Even if it was man-made, it's part of the natural landscape now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of our charge to protect. So I think it would help me immensely to get out there and take a look. I'd love to get Max's opinion on the pond and the wildlife. I also kind of have to push back on the notion that there will be no real impact on the pond because of, yes, the drainage that is spec'd out in the plans, and all of the built-in elements look great, but it is a garage, and the Nelsons may or may not live there for forever, and someone else is going to buy it, and it's going to be a garage, and
Big garage.
a really big garage. And if people are doing oil changes in there, or working on engines, I don't know whether we have an assurance going forward that this may be, currently proposed benign use of that space will remain benign.
Understood.
Crystal, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I kind of feel like I would also want to take a look. You know, I built a teeny tiny pond in my backyard a couple years ago, and I tell you, I have like 15 frogs, I have salamanders, and it's, you know, something we hand dug. So I think I'd want to just take a look.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to give the impression that I'm saying, yeah, I'm not saying that this is something that's completely devoid of life. I'm really just speaking about the impact of a structure 24 feet away, you know, and how we've looked to minimize those impacts.
My comment is I'm very uncomfortable setting precedent like this. I think that I do suggest that the board go and look at this, but I think we would not be fair to you and your client without telling you that I think that you should come up with an alternative plan, an alternative site that is outside of the buffer.
Okay.
I have a question. I didn't see it before, but it says windmill by the pond there. Is that existing or is that a proposed windmill?
No, that's existing. It's like a it's like a steel windmill that sits there. It's
Just a decorative type of thing?
it's just a decorative thing. Yes.
I don't know if you were trying to sneak in a windmill there.
No. You know, we obviously would love to have the board. I'd be happy to come out and meet the board on the site. We can, and, you know, further discuss options for, you know, minimizing impacts.
Yeah, I mean, think about other locations. I know that constraint map looked pretty daunting, but, you know, maybe there's some other creative way, you know, to do that. I mean, this area in front of the house is a pretty large area here where it says MSRW. I don't know what that is. I assume like a circular driveway or something. Is that what it is? Maybe there's some way there.
Yeah, that's just referring to the wall here. But yeah, this is it's a motor court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe there's something wrong in that area if they want to avoid that tree, whatever. Maybe cut back on the size of the garage. That's a one-story garage, right?
At this level here, it's one story. You come in, there's a lower level for mechanicals. As I said, it kind of works with the grade. The grade kind of drops off down this way. So there's a door on the lower level that gives you access to a level below.
What type of mechanicals are we talking about for a garage?
Just, you know, electric meters and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, what is the grade between where that garage is and that pond if like we have a storm and that pond floods out a little bit?
Well, you're at we had set this elevation at 86, and the pond elevation is something like 80. The wall looks like it's sitting around 82, and you saw that, you know, it's usually typically below that. So we're significantly above the water level.
So my suggestion is, I mean, I do think we should do a site visit, but I do believe before we do a site visit that there should be some alternative plan of where this garage could be put, so that the board has options to look at it. Because if we just allow it where it is, we are setting a bad precedent. We don't do this. And there would really be an extenuating circumstance that's telling us that we can do this.
You know, and to reiterate Andy's point, and you know, you've proposed a mitigation area, but without alternative locations to place their garage. So, you know, by, you know, supplying that, you know, multiple iterations of a plan potentially, or alternate locations, you know, maybe taking down one beech tree that's 20 inches in diameter, 30 inches diameter, maybe we don't need to necessarily do any mitigation, or maybe the equivalent by removing it out of the wetland buffer, mitigation is not necessary at that point. You know, the environmental value, you know, the ecological value of one 30-inch DBH beech tree, you know, we'll weigh that out, and the board will weigh that out in their decision-making process, you know, and you have maples. We don't know if that's, you know, sugar maple, Norway maple, spruce trees, probably Norway spruce. You know, these aren't native species here. So a lot of that we would weigh out. I mean, that's a lot of available area to the south there. And, you know, these types of decision-making processes have come up before the board, especially with zoning setbacks as well, where we can talk to the zoning board. You know, if we need to mitigate a potential impact to a wetland buffer by giving some sort of letter to the zoning board for a variance, we've done that in the past. So that's something to consider as well.
Understood. That all being said, would the procedure be, let's see another plan with some alternatives for next month, or is this something that where I can correspond with Max or all of you directly? You know, so we can. It sounds like we want to see new plans before potentially doing a site visit and discussing this further.
I don't know exactly what the deadlines are, but I believe if you submit 2 weeks before the meeting plans to us for our next meeting, we could try to do a site visit prior to the next meeting.
Okay, and I would just request that in my cover letter, I guess.
Right. Am I correct, Max?
Yeah, the materials need to be submitted by the last Friday of the month to be heard at the following month's meeting. So whatever that day would be.
Theoretically do a site visit.
The 30th. Yeah, if you submitted something new by the 30th with enough copies for the board to receive, they would get it before the meeting, and we could set up a site visit before the May meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
and we
thank
look
you.
forward to seeing the revised plans.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. So I'm assuming we've covered everything on the agenda. Is there stormwater or any old or new business?
The only stormwater addition to this would be that I'm working on the draft annual report, and that should be submitted to the town board by next month. So that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, we have a scheduled public hearing for the town board meeting the first week in May. And then obviously if we, depending upon what comments we receive, they would be incorporated into the report, and then we'd submit the report at the end of May.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Mike, can you give us an update on your town board status, or are you what's the future of our involvement with you in terms of the board here?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in my my window's closing on my service with the town. So I don't know how much longer I'll be on it, but I'm certainly not going to serve an awful lot longer. But I will. Anything I have to do or work with anybody even afterwards, I'm happy to do. So, that won't be a problem that way. And I don't know what the board will do as far as replacement goes.
We're gonna miss you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Yeah.
I did have one thing to sort of announce. The Hudson Highlands Land Trust reached out to us, to the Climate Smart Task Force, and we're going to be working with them to present the natural resources inventory. I can't remember the date. I believe it's April 27th on a Tuesday. And it's basically going to be, how to use the maps, how to use the NRI. I can send out the more information, the date, if other people want to attend. Max and Roberto worked really hard on this, and I think it's good for the public to, have an idea of how to use this tool, since that's the whole purpose, is like, how do you use it? And I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Max, but
I think I owe you an email on that. But yeah, no, we should talk before then. I should have time to work with you on that. So you're not kind of like hanging out in the lurch there. So yeah, no, other than that, I'm still working on just finalizing the online tool, the ARC online tool, that basically takes all the hard copy maps in the report or the PDF and allows like a user to, manipulate them in any way, whatever property they're looking at. So I'm still trying to get that all figured out, and I should have that done hopefully by May too, with that deadline. But yeah, before then, if we can meet Crystal and talk, and maybe we can kind of co-present that together, that'd be great.
That would be great. And
Yeah.
then hopefully the town will take up the proposed natural resources inventory draft law that we had put out, just to basically like codify all the natural resource inventory. So we have more tools in our toolkit. So yeah, that's all my news.
Let us know when the webinar is.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Andy, we just needed to approve outstanding minutes also.
That's what I
tonight.
was about to say.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you, sorry.
So I know I have sitting in front of me is February and March, but I think we have a couple other months.
Yes, we have October through March, basically. So 6 months. And some of those I had sent to you just after last month's meeting, and the rest came in the packet.
Okay. Has everybody reviewed them? I'm gathering, is that a no?
Got them right here.
I did look at,
you.
I looked at February and March, and I had looked at the earlier ones a while ago. And
Me too.
I didn't have any issues with them. I think the minutes are very good. The only suggestion I have on some of the later minutes is that we go from like the last applicant to what would be sort of new business, old business, and a few other odds and ends. I think it might make sense in the future. I don't think we need to go back on this, is to just put a heading like you do with the other things, old business, new business, etc. So it just breaks it up. It would be easier for somebody that's looking at it.
Okay, thank you.
But
Cheryl, can you update the board? This isn't about the minutes, but about the planning board meeting regarding the Garrison golf course. Is that coming up this week?
Yeah, that is this
or-
week. It happens to be the same week this month, so it is Thursday. I believe I sent out the link and the latest submission to the group, as you guys requested last month. Yeah, so if you'd like to sit in on that.
But you have to register for it to get the link. And Cheryl sent, I guess it was the link to register was in your email.
Correct.
I'm going.
Were there new materials submitted to the planning board for this week regarding that project?
Yeah, that was also included. It's a minimal, it's like 1 page or 2 pages from the attorney, and then a couple of maps, I believe.
Okay.
I can resend it if you need. And actually, it should all be up on the site. Kim has put everything up on the website.
Okay. I was just in the side, I guess, to just make sure that there wasn't like a new set of, I mean, obviously there's so many plans and drawings, but if there wasn't a new set that the board might want to look at.
Yeah, no, nothing major anyway.
Okay.
okay, so going back to the minutes, is everybody comfortable voting on different minutes, or do we want to hold this off one more month and no more than that, and everybody look at what's there?
I'm ready to vote.
I am too, so,
I'm fine with voting. I've got, yeah.
okay. All right, so let's begin with the earliest is October.
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept October's minutes
So moved.
and a second?
Aye. Or me.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so October has been approved. Can I have a motion to approve November's minutes?
Motion. Motion to
Okay,
approve.
and a second.
I'll second.
Okay, and all in favor?
We'll mix it up. Aye.
Aye. Okay. So now we've done November, October, November, we're at December. Can I have a motion to approve December's minutes?
So moved.
Okay, second.
I second.
Where's
And all in
Bob?
favor?
Aye.
Okay, so December's minutes are now approved. January's minutes. Could I have a motion to approve January's minutes, please?
I
I
motion.
don't remember if I was at January's meeting.
I wasn't at February, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I missed January.
Okay, so we're gonna have to skip January and February. January
Yeah, we
and,
don't have enough because Crystal wasn't at
Okay.
February.
okay,
We can do March.
okay. So we're gonna
We
have to
can do
skip
March.
January and February. How about March? Do we have, let's see,
You have a motion.
yeah, do I have a motion to accept March?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So March is accepted. Okay, so Cheryl, just let's put a note out and remind everybody, please, that we need to look at again January and February
Okay,
so that we can pass these next month and not be behind any longer.
got it. Yeah, we'll be all caught up.
Would be great.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Why, yeah. Oh, Crystal did it.
Okay. And a second?
And a third.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
Bye-bye.